Shrimad's divine grace, founder of ISKCON, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki, granted on Shrimadbhagavatam ki, their most merciful Lordship Shri Shrimadakam Bihari ki, Shri Jagannath Shri Baladev Mai Subhadra ki, Shri Nataji Shri Balagopal ki, Shri Gauritai ki, Nitai Go Prem. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the Lord, sweet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. Do you know what text we're on? 50? Next chapter. Yeah, this is the last. Okay, very good. Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Jayamudiraya
Tato Jayamudiraya
Nastaprayeshu Bhadreshu
Nastaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavate Uttama Sloke
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naishtaki.
Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki.
Reading from Shrimadbhagavatam, Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti and Parikshit saved. Text 1. Sutta Vacha
Sutta Vacha
Ata
Ata
Te
Te
Samparitanam
Samparetanam
Ata Te Samparitanam
Ata Te Samparetanam
Swanam
Swanam
Udakam
Dagam
Ichatam
Chatam
Swanam Udakam Ichatam
Swanam Udagam Chatam
Datum
Datum
Sakrishna
Sakrishna
Gangayam
Gangayam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam
Parasakritya
Paraskritya
Yayu Striya
Striya
Purasakritya Yayu Striya
Paraskritya Yayustriya
Sutavacha
Sutta Vacha
Atate Samparitanam
Atate Samparetanam
Swanam Uddakamichatam
Swanam Udagam Chatam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam
Puraskritya Yayustriya
Paraskritya Yayustriya
Sutavacha
Sutta Vacha
Atate Samparitanam
Atate Samparetanam
Swanam Uddakamichatam
Swanam Udagam Chatam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam
Purasakritya Yayustriya
Paraskritya Yayustriya Sutta Vacha
Atate Samparitanam Svanamudakamichatam Datum Sakrishna Gangayam Puraskritya Yayustriya Sutavacha Atate Samparitanam Svanamudakamichatam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam
Datum Sakrishna Gangayam Puraskritya Yayustriya Sutavacha Sutta said Ata thus Te the Pandavas Samparitanam of the dead Swanam of the relatives Udakam water Ichatam willing to have Datum to deliver Sakrishna along with Draupadi Gangayam on the Ganges Purasakritya Puraskritya putting in the front Yayu went Striya the women Sutavacha Atate Samparitanam Svanamudakamichatam Datum Sakrishna Gangayam Purakritya Yayustriya. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace of I, Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srila Goswami said, thereafter the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. The ladies walked in front. Please repeat. Srila Goswami said,
Swami said,
Thereafter the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead, relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. The ladies walked in front. Sri Goswami said, thereafter the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. The ladies walked in front. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. To date, it is the custom in Hindu society to go to the Ganges or any other sacred river to take bath when death occurs in the family. Each of the family members pours out a potful of the Ganges water for the departed soul and walks in a procession with the ladies in front. The Pandavas also followed the rules more than 5,000 years ago. Lord Krishna, being a cousin of the Pandavas, was also amongst the family members. Om Jnanamanandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshusha Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So, we're seeing within the culture of India the realization of the soul making progress to the next stage. Otherwise, there would be no reason to offer water to the forefathers or to the passing family members. Pretty much in American society, they're not thinking of another body. They're thinking it's either heaven or hell. But according to the Shrimadbhagavatam, we're all related to Krishna in one way or another. I was asking Maharaj the other day when he came, yesterday. That was yesterday already.
What Maharaj?
Well, do you know his name?
Yesterday?
Yeah. I forget his name. Okay. But I was asking him about our Swarup. The Swarup being that eternal form the soul is in its relationship to Krishna. But as we're seeing, the knowledge of that relationship is what develops in the devotee as they engage in Krishna's service. So when we start, we may be engaging in activities that are somewhat related to that eternal rasa or that eternal relationship we're having with Krishna, but it may not be fully manifest. But according to my guru, the reason Srila Prabhupada was not so much interested, devotees, so many artificial imitators in India trying to promote themselves as very advanced, then they go around wanting to know what their eternal Swarup is, or promoting that they know what their eternal Swarup with Krishna is. But what happens is the development of one's attachment to Krishna manifests as seva. So this devotional rasa that we're having with Krishna, this relationship, develops and becomes more and more pure. And as it becomes more and more purified, automatically it becomes manifest in our lives. It's not something we have to take a separate endeavor to know or to become, but to realize, well, as we say, we're aspiring to become pure devotees. So in that is the aspiration to know that eternal relationship that we have with Krishna, that Krishna is giving us this process in order to bring us back to the knowledge of. And so we can apply our senses fully engaged in that activity that we are most suited to. We are all eternal, and we are all having a relationship with Krishna. But the extent we have advanced to this point doesn't mean that we cannot make further advancement to the Madhurya. For a male, thinking of himself as wanting to become a female seems somewhat, speaking from a male's perspective, it seems somewhat foreign. Especially in this society, I don't want to be a woman. You can just say, I don't want to be a woman. But if that is the form that is in the form it is in for the pleasure of Krishna, then that takes on a whole different perspective. So then my desire should not be aiming at that which I want. When desire is aimed toward what Krishna wants, then satisfaction automatically follows. So when we express to Krishna we want this thing or that thing, then the lesson has to come. Have a great day. The lesson will come that by wanting Krishna's way, then the false ego then becomes broken. But we have seen in Bhagavatam where devotees come to the point of having performed austerities to please Krishna. And then when Krishna comes to the point of asking them what boon they want, and then the devotee says, no, I already gained you, that's all I wanted was you. Krishna insists, we see that this happens, Krishna insists that you take some benediction from him. So we can be thinking in our heart of hearts what it is Krishna would be most pleased for us to have in our desire, in the desire of our hearts. What is the most pleasing thing that could bring happiness to Krishna's consciousness? Of course, Krishna is already the source of all happiness, but he takes individual happiness with every one of his devotees. Takes great pleasure in Arjuna on the battlefield, in seeing Arjuna respond favorably to his instructions and to his advice that he gives. Similarly with us, we can make rapid advancement, or what is required is steady advancement. Jai Shri Radha Krishna, Jai Jagannath, Jai Baladev, my Shri Jai Shri Jai. When Srila Prabhupada surrendered to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta, the understanding was that they would be chanting 64 rounds a day. And that was the standard Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had set for us to consider ourselves human beings. Human beings. Not Vaishnava, not devotee, just human beings, So when we say we're aspiring to become devotees, we can see how high the goal has been set by the previous acharyas who established what a relationship with Krishna is really like. Because we're, in a sense, comparing the amount of time we spend chanting, we're like part-time. chanting 8 hours a day. We're chanting 2 hours and hoping we can find the time to do that, right? But this seva also is significantly important as well, because it's ultimately the answer of the request that the chanting is. Please engage me in your loving devotional service, Krishna. So responding when devotional activities are made available then assures that we will continue on the path. Just like Gorsinder, he was asked to clean pots the other day. I heard him saying, I never refuse seva. And that's a good attitude that we should keep all the time. Whatever is being offered, it is Krishna himself offering us that. And in the endeavor then, it frees us from the material consciousness. Seeing our relatives from the light of this verse puts us also in a position to appreciate the fact that we have a close association with Krishna, and that ultimately it is in his hands that everybody's going to get the end result. And ultimately what that end result for a devotee is that eternal relationship. Because it is the eternalness of the nature of the relationship that we're longing for in all these endeavors we make in the world. We're looking to find the eternalness. And that can be found. Krishna is making that available to us in a limited realm. The unlimited is being made available through the limited. The eternal being made manifest in the temporary. It's a phenomena. The soul, same way the soul is manifesting in a temporary situation, even though it is itself eternal. So there are eternal aspects the soul can manifest in this world that are not common to the everyday man or woman, because their senses are being used for a different purpose than the devotee's senses are being used for. The devotee's senses are being used to satisfy the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When a devotee is self-realized, he realizes that every set of senses there are is owned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So they're not actually our senses. These senses that we are using temporarily belong to Krishna. And so his philosophy is being revealed to us so that we can know the best way that these physical bodies can be used, and how to experience through the temporary physical senses the eternal nature of the seva that he can be engaging it in with the soul. So it would seem, in a sense, even in meditation, the soul's not actually stationary. The fact that it is creating a vibration makes it itself in a state of flux, you might say. It's constant vibration is up. It's a transforming breath of Krishna. Because all that we breathe has originally come from the inside of Krishna's body. So, but who sees like that? I was reading the other day about how, see, when we want opulence, there are opulences that can be gained that the soul who experiences that as their desire, they can be restricted to that eternally without Krishna. Some of these lower planetary systems are described to be like heavenly planets in their opulence. But by the desire of the living entities who are there, there is no knowledge of Supersoul. There's no knowledge of God whatsoever. And so, if the mind gets conditioned to that kind of a life, enjoyment without God, enjoyment separate from God, then that is available in the universe. And many such souls are living in that set of circumstances. But then too, nobody's free from karma. So, just imagine how big the false egos would be there under those circumstances. When we feel the oppression, of course, we get reactions in our own lives from our own exercise of false ego. But when we were under the submission to controllers who are themselves controlled by false ego, and in those realms where there is no knowledge of God whatsoever, false ego just roam unlimitedly. And that's the problem man is finding himself in now. Humanity at large is finding themselves in a paradox. They don't believe there's an eternal realm. They're suffering the effects of things from actions they've caused in an eternal, can you say, past, because they've been involved in the material energy since time immemorial. And they can't put two and two together, not knowing that the result of their life, that they are trying to overcome the obstacles that are in the way because of their present state of consciousness. This present state of consciousness is also creating obstacles to keep them from being able to see the eternal realm, to be able to see or taste or experience the happiness of eternalness. And so, the farther they turn away from God, the more a form of slavery life becomes. Because one not realizing the control the modes of material energy have and the drive that it is forcing the soul to perform activities that are not even for its own benefit, that are detrimental to its existence, actually. That's how strong the modes of material energy are. When an alcoholic goes down to the bar to drink, he may have in his mind that he doesn't want to drink, but he's forced. Desire forces them then, without the need or the realization of the need to control the mind left to its own doing then forces the soul to become a slave to the mind, rather than the soul controlling the mind. So that's what's happening with people who are pursuing ambitious thoughts of wanting to enjoy the energy of the material world, they're being driven to do things against their own well-being, subjecting themselves to the future pain that these activities are causing them now to experience that they have also performed in the past, and they're not learning from the experiences. It's one thing to suffer in the material world and learn the lesson by it so that we don't do it again. But it's another thing to be totally ignorant of why we are suffering, which keeps them in. It's the same way with the medical profession. And they're not even interested in wanting to know why the disease starts. They don't care. They just want to reverse the symptoms of the disease or the ill health the body is chemically changed into. But without knowing the source of that, there's no way of stopping that. But modern medicine is built on the idea that those engaged in the profession only prosper when there are people who are sick. So where's the impetus to want to even heal people? There is no impetus there. Which at one time was the impetus of the super soul. Because there was a time during my own lifetime that the idea of conscience was a very strong motivating factor, which is actually super soul. We talk about conscience, we're talking about that inbred laws of God that are meant to be common sense. You don't purposely hurt people, or you don't purpose, there are certain activities you don't engage in, yelling and screaming for no reason, and bumping into people, and calling people names, and so many things. Conscience, as super soul, was a guide that the majority of society agreed was a unifying force and a voice we could actually understand was meant for the advancement of humankind. But there's not that same acknowledgement now. And just like children allowed without training to do whatever they want, they will not be able to find the path. The path is not easy to stay on. The path is not easy to find. And how rare it is, Krishna reveals that this path is for souls in comparison to how many souls there are. You count the souls in one offering. Every grain of rice, every pea pod. Now with a potato, that potato could have 10 seeds on its body that were cut away that won't be able to grow because of the potato being used for food for the human being. If there were no laws of justice, then it would seem normal that potatoes wouldn't be souls. The seeds of this, they wouldn't have souls in them. So it is by confidential knowledge of God that we can even know these things. It is not common knowledge. Any aspect of Krishna consciousness is not common anymore. So there's not even the acknowledgement that conscience is something we all share in common. Which is super soul. And that is a concept, actually, which should be familiar to everyone on a spiritual path. that there is what is called the still small voice of conscience. That when somebody chooses to do something that they know is wrong, there is a guiding force sharing the body with them. It tells them not to do that, which is what we call conscience. Devotees are so far above conscience, though. As devotees know the inside secrets. Devotees know the inside secrets about subtle body, the mind, the difference between the mind and consciousness, and the soul. But where is this being taught? What school of philosophy is there that has these profound teachings of human beings that they need to just simply function in life without living in constant fear of death and anxiety, especially when death is happening all around? Automobiles like they are. Everyday activities now, a person has to risk their life just to go to work. Just to go anywhere, actually. You drive out on these streets, there's crazy people out there. And they're not looking to obey the laws either of the land. And a lot of these laws of the land, because people recognize them as unnecessary, then the law itself gets disrespected, which is actually representative of God. God is the origin of law. Man didn't create law. Man broke laws for there to be a need for laws. Otherwise, these inbred teachings, the soul would be in full knowledge of. But we have hope that this golden age that's coming is going to bring that, when all living beings on the planet are serving the same purpose, wanting to develop pure love for God, and then revealing that by pure love for human beings, then functioning in a society, functioning perfectly. When love of God is realized by humanity at large, that will be a time that will be true peace, true happiness, contentment, satisfaction. And Krishna reveals these conditions in all of the cities. Ayodhya, Mathura, what to speak, Vrindavan, Mayapur. All these cities which restrict the souls that are not wanting to abide by the laws of the city from entering into the city, so that the city and the inhabitants of the cities can be protected from those who do not want to keep those laws, because it only wreaks havoc. Breaking of the laws of God wreaks havoc to human beings at large. And so what is also missing is the understanding of the link between daily physical activity and the connection to the weather, the connection to the events in life considered to be accidents. You know how they say they have traffic accidents, people dying without a cause. Is that what is meant by the word accident? Or something that was not meant to be, which suggests that it could have been avoided, which I would agree. There's a good chance that all accidents, or those activities that human beings engage in that end up in destruction or pain or suffering, they could be avoided. And that's what the precepts of Krishna give us guidance to be able to give us the supreme protection from all of these harmful reactions in the material world. And that's what people are suffering the experience of as their previous activities. And as long as it is believed that there's such a thing as accidents, then people don't take credit. It's just happened. It just happened. I didn't cause it, it just happened. I mean, that's the only conclusion that can be made. If there's no such thing as karma, and if there is such a thing as accidents, then there's nothing to learn from these pains and sufferings we go through. They're just accidents. So a devotee doesn't seem like that. There are things to be learned from everything. And we can learn the greatest lesson from the faults of others, from the downfalls of others. Bhagavatam says it's more wise to learn from the downfalls of others than for ourselves to have to fall down to that and learn the same message. I've fallen down several times, and I can assure you that I'd much rather read about Ajamil's falling down than falling down myself. Because contained within these teachings, Krishna is revealing how the lowest can be picked up. So why suffer ourselves to be put into the lowest positions, but rather just retain by steady engagement, constant steady engagement. My karmi name was Eddie. My mother used to call me Steady Eddie. She used to also call me Spaghetti Eddie. But people become known by the things that they engage in. So if they know us as Hare Krishnas, then hopefully they know us by distribution of food, by chanting of Krishna's names, by distribution of books. And in this way, the world becomes a transformed environment. People are all making disturbances because they believe the environmental circumstances are such that they're going to be destroyed. They have now the present belief that the world is going to be destroyed if we don't stop burning petroleum products. This is a big fear being put into the hearts and minds of children at very young ages. These children are being meant to feel the responsibility of human beings who are in their 20s, 30s, 40s. Now they're putting this burden of thought upon 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, 7-year-olds. The world might come to a disastrous end any day now because your father drives a car. When you analyze it like that, it's somewhat ridiculous. But it is, again, a lack in a knowledge and a belief that God is overseeing everything. And that even if it were such calamity at the point being, then it's only all the more reason for us to turn our faces towards God and seek protection of God. But to those societies that do follow God wholeheartedly and their whole lives are dedicated to serving God, Krishna gives knowledge. Krishna gives foresight. He gives Srila Prabhupada Trikalagya to be able to see the future and the past and the present very clearly. There's a statement in the Bible that says, without a vision, the people perish. People are constantly setting goals. But if all the goals we set are simply for I, me, and mine, it won't give the same satisfaction that working towards the common goal of society, for society to set goals also for itself. And in meeting those goals, then, we can achieve greater accomplishments than we can do individually. So then what to speak when people who have full faith in the power of God, then it's unlimited what can be done by human beings. But what needs to be done? From one perspective, everything's already perfect. Everything's already perfect. Everything came from God. Everything's going back to God. We're going back to God. We're engaging in God's energy. What is there that's not perfect? God has created a set of circumstances to perfectly punish those who break his laws and to perfectly reward those who help others engage in activities that are leaning towards those engagements that are pleasing to God. And this is the experience of life, what we're getting the result of. But for the most part, it's not being taught. That's the result. It's being believed. Atheistic philosophy entering into the minds of young people believe there's no reason. There's no reason for everything to happen. It's all chance. I mean, basically, that's the conclusion. If there is no God, then what reason would there be for keeping laws? If this is the end is the end, then we just go out and do as much as we can to enjoy ourselves as much as we possibly can. There would be no reason not to, if there is no God. But if there is a God, and if he cares enough to give us truth, to speak to us what he knows about himself, which Bhagavad Gita is, what Shrimadbhagavatam is, what Chaitanya Charitamrita is, all these literatures directly given by word of mouth, Krishna's own words out of his very own mouth to us directly, to reveal to us how dear we are to him. God cares enough about human beings to create a means of them being able to communicate even after they've chosen to leave his presence, even after we've chosen to enter into some realm away from the eternal bliss of God's presence. This Murtyaloka we've chosen to live in. By choice, we got here somehow. Wrong choice. I believe it was seeing Mahavishnu from a distance and wanting to enjoy that body. See, if Mahavishnu is emanating universes, you could just imagine every universe being covered by earth, water, fire, air, ether. And what we would see is the fire of it and how big those universes are compared to our one little tiny sun. And we can't even look at that for more than 3 to 5 seconds in burning eyes. So what to speak of a universe? And then we see that from a distance. That'd be from a distance. Otherwise we'd be burned up. And then we look at it for our own pleasure, thinking Mahavishnu is for me to enjoy. He was made for me. That's the way the thinking is with the Maya body. Everything in this realm is made for my pleasure to enjoy. It's the way they are thinking. And that's the way normal human beings are thinking. Without self-realization, there's no reason for humans to believe any other way. Just go out and do whatever you want and get as much out of life as you can. So, but we see what this produces. And we see what end people suffer in the pursuit of happiness in so many ways. And finding in the end it brings only disturbance and pain and suffering. When in fact, to know the self To know the substance of the self is to know bliss, and it is to know eternity. And the process being given to us to know that is this chanting of Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we can engage in that as much as possible and experience the freeing, the liberating force that these names are. It keeps us protected through the day, that frees our mind from the anxiety, the grief. That is the only energy this world has to offer. It is the external energy of Krishna. And this chanting is the internal, that we have always available. The devotee is always this far away from bliss. All he has to do is think about it. Just think about Krishna, and we're that far away from Krishna's bliss, the ecstatic experience of Krishna's presence, bringing eternity and the substance and the knowledge of his power. Krishna, how can we fear? How can we doubt? How can we worry when we know our greatest friend is the all-powerful, almighty, in control of everything, and making a very special path for each and every one of us individually to go according to the means he is providing us at the time when the time is right. And we can celebrate growing into that process, growing into the maturation of that experience of bliss that we will eventually come to when we become completely Krishna conscious. Any comments, any questions, any realization? Sure.
Are you talking about conscience, right?
Yeah.
Like, how do you get in touch with the conscience system?
Yeah, it's a super soul.
What do you use as Sharia experience?
Because super soul, we know, is constantly aware of what the soul is doing. So, the soul is elusive. Finding the substance of the soul, even engaging in this process for many, many years, knowing the substance of the soul, what we are made of. We don't know this thing yet. Because all we have as experience is mortal bodies and mortal dead energy, the substance of this whole material universe. There's no life in it. We don't know what life looks like. But the soul, Srila Prabhupada said, eyes are the windows to the soul, but we see in part only. We see a little bit. And we get a taste here and there. But we can know for sure, just like Krishna says, the entirety of this universe is but a spark of his energy. Can we imagine that? It's the entirety of this one universe as a spark. But he has billions of sparks, those universes, every one of them. And this is described as the smallest it can be. When the smallest kind of universe there can be. And it's but a spark of Krishna's potency. So realization is very important, because we would have no idea how powerful Krishna is without the scriptures. So, if we are putting scriptures into our mind, then those scriptures are going to be coming back to us constantly. And the nature of those scriptures is the same as the nature of the soul. That which is coming out of Krishna's mouth is that which feeds the knowledge of the soul. The soul is the very substance of what the soul is. We might think of that act, that Lord Krishna took part in, originally embedding the seed into Brahma's heart, right? We might think of that as having been one act of Krishna that enabled the seeds to manifest or to become manifest eventually into the material world. But every breath of Krishna coming into this universe is what we're breathing from the very being of God. What breath is. He can't separate himself, and yet he's separate from everything. We can't separate him from us, and yet he's separate from us. It's a paradox we're living in. And we can contemplate on it forever and ever and ever. And so it's that vast. Krishna's knowledge of Krishna, knowledge of the soul, knowledge of the relationship with Krishna, the soul with Krishna. These are all eternal aspects. The soul is in constant endeavor to know when it is making endeavor in the physical world, even though it believes itself to be trying to find something for itself to be satisfied with. It does not know it is looking for that eternity, that unlimited realm of bliss, only available in Krishna. And Krishna is making it available to us through the sound vibration of his name, because his name takes on the same character as the soul is. He's non-different from his name, and his name, the substance of his name, is not different from the substance of the soul. So as we recite that name, can be recited by the mind. In and of itself, that sound vibration has with it, Krishna says he has invested all of his potencies in that name. And he doesn't say it matters who recites it, but it is the name itself that is the power, not determined by who's reciting it. The power, the force that Krishna is, fulfills the purpose of the name. And so we can be assured at every moment, every time we say Krishna. Krishna is hearing it, taking pleasure in it, giving us awareness of it, giving us realization as we come closer and closer and closer to the full realization of who Krishna is, who we are, and what our eternal relationship to him is. That's the bliss, the ecstasy of seva. Study and reading gives us understanding of the acts we can do that can bring us the realization that the devotees we read about are getting. And we can have that relationship with Krishna just as close as it's being given to us, just as purely as it's being spoken to Arjuna on the battlefield, just as personally, because Super Soul is even closer to us than Krishna was to Arjuna on the battlefield. Think about that. Super Soul in the body, sharing every single body with every single living entity, is revealing the closeness of Krishna, revealing the closeness of his own nature that he's sharing with everyone. That is even more intimate than that being revealed. As that form Arjuna was taking on the battlefield with Krishna. Because they're sharing separate bodies in this case. But we're all sharing the same body with Krishna. Every form of life is. So the revelation being revealed on how close Krishna is coming with this soul Arjuna in separate forms. And just think how close we are to Krishna when we're sharing the same body. So what it is our realization of what it is. It's not that what it is going to change. It's that we have to become aware of what it is, that relationship we are sharing with Krishna. And then we will know eternalness, the substance of eternalness. That's what the soul is. And our seva, as eternal as we want that to be. That will be our realization of what it is. Any other comments? Does that answer that question about through the day? It's so available. It's always right here, right now, and yet it seems so far away. The ecstasy of the bliss of the soul because of its relationship with Krishna. That should in and of itself be such that gives us such ecstasy, divine experience of ecstasy. God himself is sharing the same body with us. More intimate than a husband and wife can be with each other. The same body. Wow. Yeah. And to be brought to that realization, we're so fortunate. That's our good fortune. Krishna's mercy, our good fortune to die. Any other comments, questions, realization? Shrimadbhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.